Hello, crafty friends. I'm Lien from Studio Kato, but I'm so happy to be here on the Syberia Designs YouTube channel. And today I'm sharing a card that I made for Creative Stamping magazine. I'm starting out with a very simple backdrop here, and I am just going to paint two swooshes of blue on this piece of watercolor cardstock. Creative Stamping magazine provided us with a color scheme to work with, so I knew I wanted to use the warm tones of that color palette in my critters, and I'm mixing up the blues to be as close a match as possible to the blues they provided us with to create a backdrop. Again, I am just painting on some very simple swooshes. I make sure that the first one, the lightest one, is completely dry before I move on to overlap it with the darkest blue. And this is just going to make sure that I have no bleeding of the color. And these are both going to be very clean and yeah, just very clean brush strokes. Now I am going to spice it up a little bit more. For this background, I am going to do some inlay. I die cut this background with the fancy cover die from Syberia Designs. And I am poking out all of the diamond-shaped pieces that don't have any paint on them. So all of the white ones I'm going to be replacing with silver ones. You can very easily do this by just poking them out and putting a piece of silver cardstock behind them. But I like to do die cut inlay. I just think it's really satisfying to do. I really enjoy doing it. But it also looks really satisfying when it's all level. So I love my dimension, but sometimes die cut inlay is just perfect. I die cut this die from silver glitter cardstock. I put purple tape on the back of the white die cut, and that's a perfect place to pop in my little squares there. You don't have to use purple tape. You can also do it on a separate piece of cardstock or even directly on your card base. This is just how I always do it. It's the easiest way to do for me. For my focal images, I am using these adorable critters. This is a Sparkle and Dance stamp set and the die set as well. I love that the dies from Syberia Designs are teal. They're just so pretty. And I'm stamping out these critters with Memento Tuxedo Black ink, and then I can color them in with my Ohuhu markers. I'm using Clairefontaine DCP 250 GSM cardstock, and I am stamping them twice because I didn't get a good impression the first time. And I am using alcohol marker friendly ink first. Then I'm going to pop this back in my MISTI. I was a little bit dumb to cut off the excess paper because now it's going to be a little bit difficult to line back up, but I love to add an embossed outline. Now you can't color with alcohol markers over embossed outlines because the embossing powder will dissolve, and so you won't see any of that pretty embossing powder anyway, so it's a moot point. And it also gets in your markers, and that's not good. It can ruin your markers. We don't want that, so I just do it really quickly, pop it back into my MISTI, and stamp it again later after I'm done coloring. Again, I'm sticking to the color scheme here, so I wanted an orange cat. I have an orange cat myself, so I'm coloring her in like my cat looks a little bit. I'm trying to at least. And then for the skirts, these are probably the hardest part of these critters to color. You can keep it really simple, but if you want to add a little bit of shading in there, you basically have to look where the pleats would go. And I am no expert in anything like that, but I just try to curve it around the body of the cat and see where the skirt kind of dips up at the bottom. So that's where it swooshes, and that's where it would create a pleat and a shadow, I think. So I am adding those shadows there, and once that's colored, I am just going to color in the little polka dots with yellow. That's going to contrast nicely with the purple. For the pug, I am using some grays, and I always start with my darkest marker. I don't think this is the easiest way to blend. If you're having trouble blending, you might want to start with your lightest color and overlap it with your darker shades as you go. But I think this gives me the best results because I get a higher contrast between my lightest shade and my darkest shade. So the more you go over your lightest shade, if you start with the lightest, that happens a lot, the darker it will become, and I like to keep it very light. So that's why I start with my darkest. If you're having trouble blending, you might want to start with your lightest shade instead. Once these are done colored, I am piecing the pieces of paper back together. Normally, I do this so often, I can't believe I cut the paper apart this time. Normally I just keep it in one piece and there's no issue. This time I puzzled it back together in my MISTI to stamp it again. But yeah, you can do that or just not be stupid the first time around, but mistakes happen. I'm adding that clear embossing powder and heat setting it with my Wow Dual Speed heat tool, and then I can line up those pretty teal dyes. I really, really love the teal dyes, and it fits great with this color scheme for the card too. So I just line those up, pop a couple of pieces of purple tape on there to keep them nice and in place while they go through my die cutting machine, and once that's done, I can assemble the card. I put some double-sided adhesive on the back of my panel. That purple tape is still in place to keep the silver glitter pieces in place. And I am propping up the critters on foam tape. I'm making sure I like the placement first before taking off the backings. And I'm just making sure that the swooshes are great for grounding the critters. So I'm making sure they are lined up with the swooshes, the paint, the brushes. It's just a great way to ground your images if you just want a little pop of color in your background. I am also going to add some sentiments. I white heat embossed these onto black cardstock, and I die cut a couple of extra pieces of black cardstock to add some dimension to them. These sentiments are from the same stamp set, so the Sparkle and Dance stamp set, and the coordinating dies for the sentiments are also included in the coordinating die set. I always love it when companies do that. It makes it a lot easier for me to cut out my sentiments. So yeah, I really enjoy that. I like to use multiple sentiments on one card. It just looks nicer sometimes. And the way this is centered is just very pleasing to me. I'm using Barely Art Precision Craft Glue to glue those in place. And I am finishing off this card with a couple of gems. Now, when you're placing your embellishments, you want to place them around the elements you want to highlight on your card. You don't just want to fill up your white space with embellishments. So I am extending the paw of the cat, the leg of the cat, and I'm extending the arm of the dog with the gems, and that is going to just continue the movement of their dance moves. I really like it. I really like how this card turned out. I hope you like it too. You can see all the details again on the Syberia Designs blog. I will link that down below if I don't forget. And all of the products will be linked down below as well. I hope you like this card as much as I do, and I hope you liked the video. If you did, make sure to subscribe to the Syberia Designs channel, because I will be back here every week and there will be plenty of guests here too. So I hope you subscribe, and I hope to see you next time. Thank you so much for watching.